Elizabeth at Literary Princess, and today I am doing my January wrap-up. So, the first thing you might notice is that I have an additional bookshelf next to me. My husband's grandfather has been making me bookshelves every year for Christmas for the past, now it's 2 years. So I got my latest one recently, and I'm very excited and naturally spent the whole evening redoing my bookshelves. So I will be doing a tour of this bookshelf. It will be the next video, but right now we need to focus on January and what I read and also didn't read. So I finished 5 books in January, which is really low for me. I don't know why. I literally started rereading Jane Eyre at the beginning of the month, and I'm still not done with it. It's February 5th when I'm filming this, and I am still not done with Jane Eyre, which is one of my favorite books. So I don't know what's going on with me. I'm not in much of a reading mood. I DNF'd 2 books in January. So not the best of reading months, and that has actually led me to drop my Goodreads challenge goal back down to 50 because I was actually getting upset seeing it be like, you're 3 books behind, which is so stupid. Like, girl, come on, pull yourself together. But I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna put it back down to 50, and now I'm a book ahead of schedule, and it makes me feel much better about myself. So there we go. I'm gonna start by talking about the ones that I've DNF'd, and then I will talk about the ones that I actually have finished. Let's get going. The first book that I DNF'd was actually an ARC that I received from NetGalley. This is The Tatami Galaxy by Tomohiko Morimi, translated from Japanese by Emily Balistrieri? I don't know how that's pronounced. I'm sorry. So I really only got a few pages into this, and I already could not stand the protagonist. It was like 5 pages in, and I was like, wow, I hate you. And I don't need likable characters to enjoy a book. We all know that about me. My favorite book is Wuthering Heights. I don't need good, likable people. But this kid pissed me off so much. He was just so whiny. He's like, I thought in university I was gonna find my people and be dating girls, but oh no, I'm a loser and girls don't come anywhere near me. I'm like, oh my God, shut up. I don't care. Work on yourself. I couldn't deal with it. He was just so irritating. So I DNF'd that fairly quickly. I just couldn't deal with it. The other one that I DNF'd is not going to be a permanent DNF. It is just a for now DNF. This is Princess Napraxian by Wilde. I love Wilde. I was very excited to pick this up. I just didn't have time to actually get into it. I've realized that I don't really want to be reading 5 books at a time anymore. Like 3 would be the max. So I had a book on audiobook. I had Jane Eyre that I was reading because I'm teaching it. I had my George Eliot project read. I had my Fairy Tale Friday read, and Princess Napraxian just kind of got lost in all that. So I'm probably gonna pick this back up in April when I'm gonna have a little bit more time and can actually just devote myself to that being maybe not my only classic, but at least like I'll read that and then I'll pick up another classic. I would really like to only be reading 1 classic at a time, just because it gets hard. It gets really hard. But yeah, I was really enjoying this. I just couldn't spend the time with it that I wanted to. Now we get to the books that I have actually finished. To start off the year, the first book I read was a 5-star read. It was amazing. It was a new release. This is Emily Wilde's Encyclopaedia of Faeries by Heather Fawcett. I love this so much. Okay, I got an ARC of this. So it's historical fantasy that I think it's taking place toward the beginning of the 20th century, and it's following Emily Wilde, who is a scholar who studies fairies. And she is going to this kind of remote village to study this group of fairies that has never been studied before so that she can write about them in her encyclopedia that she's writing. And I loved it so much. I loved that it's about a scholar. That is so much fun for me, of course. But also, I mean, there were footnotes making references to books that, you know, exist within that world and like world building. And I just really, really loved it. I liked Emily as a character. I loved her relationship with, oh my God, what's his name? He's the stupidest name. Wendell Bambleby. I was talking about this with someone on Tumblr. I was like, so what was more offensive to you, the Wendell or the Bambleby? And she was like, all of it. That's fair. But I love their relationship. It's just so good. Do yourself a favor, pick up this book. If you're a fan of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke or Babel by R.F. Kuang, I think you'll really like this. Also, if you're a fan of Howl's Moving Castle, because there is a very similar cozy vibe, and the relationship between Emily and Wendell is very similar to Howl and Sophie. This was fantastic. 5 stars. Probably gonna be a top book of the year. Like, I know, it's so... To say that in January, it's like, should I really say that in January? But this was so good. Next up was one that I was reading because I am chairing a panel and someone is presenting on it. This is A Sunless Heart by Edith Johnstone. This is a very weird book. I was like, this is so strange while reading it. What's very interesting is that it has relationships that can be read as lesbian, which is so cool for a Victorian novel. Love when that happens. Something I would love to analyze in here because that is one of my kind of secondary research interests. So this starts off with Gasparine O'Neill, and she is a twin, and her brother is Gaspar O'Neill. And they just call each other Gaspar, but they also call each other Gaspar girl and Gaspar boy. It's so weird. I was like, the whole first part of this, I was just like, what? It's so weird. They're very poor, but they come from like a good family. And the first part is just them trying to survive. And this is not much of a spoiler. It says it right on the back of the book. Gaspar dies. He has consumption. Gasparine ends up falling in with this group of women from a ladies' college, and she meets Lotus Grace, who she admires very much. And then things just kind of take off from there. I don't really know how to describe the plot of this novel. It's kind of weird. The second half ends up being really about Lotus rather than Gasparine. And kind of, she's the one with a sunless heart, and kind of how she doesn't believe she can love anyone and why that is. I gave this 3.5 stars. It's just really weird, and the ending is extremely rushed and pissed me off. But yeah, I thought it was worth reading. I'm excited to hear what the person presenting on it on my panel has to say. They're doing something with trauma theory, I think. So, 3.5 stars. Glad I read it. Glad I own it. Something I can definitely use. Not my favorite. Next up was my read for the George Eliot Project, the first George Eliot Project read of the year. This is Scenes of Clerical Life. This is a group of 3 connected novellas. I did a whole video on this, so I'm not going to say a whole lot here. I did enjoy it very much. I gave it 4 stars. And then for my Fairy Tale Friday read for the month, this is Fairest by Gil Carson Levine. This was a reread for me. It is a retelling of Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. I love Gil Carson Levine. I really enjoyed this book. I do not love it as much as I love Ella Enchanted. I gave this 4 stars, whereas Ella Enchanted is like 10 stars. 5 stars, obviously, but if I could give it 10, I would give it 10. Fairest has a lot of things that I do like from Outlet Enchanted. Really interesting world building and actually building the relationship between the characters so that it's not ridiculous insta-love. Because yeah, I don't like that naturally. And with Snow White, it's really creepy because he, in fairy tale, comes across a dead woman in a glass casket and is like, she's so pretty, I'm gonna bring her home. And then when she wakes up, he marries her. Anyway, I rant a lot about that in my video on Fairest, which does contain spoilers, by the way. But yeah, I liked this a lot. 4 stars, so glad I got to reread it. The final book of the month was a audiobook that I got from Libby. This is Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. This is a mystery thriller focused around Camille Preaker, who is a journalist, and she has been sent on an assignment back to her hometown to cover 2 murders of young girls. And Camille has a very difficult relationship with her family, which really is her mother, Adora, and she also has a much younger sister named Amma, who is 13, that she doesn't really know, and she really is meeting for the first time when she comes back. This is dark. This is really dark. And I knew going into this that this was going to be dark. Like, I read the summary. I know that there's dead children in here. I watched the movie Gone Girl. I read like half the book and wasn't into it. But I watched the movie. I know that Flynn deals with some screwed up stuff here. I feel like this was darker than I bargained for. There were a few times when I was just listening to it, like while I'm walking on the treadmill or while I'm in the car, and then I was just like, oh, okay. So yeah, it's very, very dark. Trigger warnings galore. Like, anything you can think of. It's in here. Self-harm. Obviously child murder, sexualization of children, a lot of sexualization of children, yikes. But I did ultimately really like it. I think Flynn is a great writer. I liked how she was building the characters. I gave this 4 stars. It's just a lot darker than I thought it was going to be. So I do, however, really want to watch the HBO series. I'm going to see if my husband will start that with me tonight, actually. But yeah, very, very dark, very, very well done. So those are the books that I read in January. Let me know down in the comments below. Have you read any of these? What did you think? What did you read in January? It has been great chatting with you. I will see you soon. Bye.